I start with a brief introduction about my education, what I've done in the past and what I'm doing actually. And of course you are invited to ask questions even during the presentation or afterwards. Can I have the first slide, please? How it all started. With around 14 years, next please, I had a quite well equipped lab in the cellar of the house of my parents. There you can do really nice, valuable chemical experiments. But honestly, a little bit later, my attention was concentrated to explosives. And looking back, it's a miracle that I still have 10 fingers and 2 eyes. So in essence, I would say myself this was not a good idea. And next one, please. And it was also not a good idea in this period of time, 14 years. So please excuse me. I also spilled a few drops of tear gas on the desk of my teacher, where it slowly but surely evaporates, and the result you see there. But later on, my interest becomes more and more serious. Next slide, please. And I started to study chemistry at the University of Munich. Typically, chemistry study is 4 to 5 years till the diploma, with a pre-diploma examination in the middle. And if you want to change university, the best way to do it is after this pre-diploma examination or for PhD study. PhD study for chemists is more or less mandatory when you want to apply afterwards for the interesting and well-paid jobs. This is around also 2 to 4 years in addition to the diploma studies. And you can even do it in the same university or you go abroad. And if you want to apply afterwards for an academic career to become professor at a university, it's also more or less mandatory that you then execute 1 or 2 postdoc studies, each for 1 to 2 years. So it's quite a very long education what you have to pass until you get a PhD in chemistry. Next one, please. What can you do then with this? As I said, you can become professor at a university or teacher at school, but the majority of chemists starting their career in the chemical industry. And so did I on the Linz side. This is indeed where we are located here. This is a chemical park, the former Chemie Linz, where actually are producing 4 different companies, a variety of chemicals on the side. And I started, next one please, and I started in R&D. This is also the typical entry gate for young chemists when you start your career in the chemical industry. But in the industry, R&D is of course result oriented. You need to bring tangible results. It's not only research, and you can really very quick went over to production to see on live scale if your ideas work or not. This is a very energizing experience. At least for me, it was so energizing that I decided after a short period of time to move to production. And I have till today, more than 20 years ago, with the people out of this area contact, because this was really, as I said, an energizing experience to went to a huge plant. You have ideas as a chemist and you see how it works and you can earn money with it. What else could you do? Next slide, please. With an education of a chemist, you can become an expert. Expert career, this is something what you should do when you are really interested in every aspect, every detail of one specific topic. and later on, then you are the guy in your company who will be called from all over the world and ask for his or her opinion. These kind of jobs, typically you find really in worldwide operating chemical companies, not in small ones. And it's quite similar to being a professor, I think. What else can you do? Next one, please. You can go to marketing and sales. Also, after having started in R&D, you have with customer project first contacts to customers. And when you see, I like this interactions, this experience talking to customers, bringing my own ideas to the market, helping the company to earn money with it, then you should choose for this career path going to marketing and sales. Typically, after R&D, you start then as a product manager, developing marketing and sales plans for one product or for a small portfolio. And of course, you need to be extrovert for this kind of job. Next one, please. Yeah, and if you add to your chemistry education an MBA, working in different companies abroad or in your own country and have had different jobs, 5 or 6, yeah, then you're fit for general management and become manager for things not covered by other managers. But last but not least, the next one, and this was the career path I selected, is a so-called operations management. Operations management means that you are responsible for the production in the facility, that you are responsible for maintaining the plant, that you are responsible for technology development, that you are responsible for a huge amount of cost, what you have to manage and to bring it down. How looks, next one please. How looks a typical life, a day in the life of a production manager? Here in Linz, we're producing 24 hours a day, the whole year, even Christmas evening or New Year's Eve, our plants running continuously. And what a typical day, what you start is when you are a production manager, you have for a morning meeting, you check what went wrong, what went right in the night or in the evening, and you apply a lot of tools and databases to do only one thing. Next. You have to improve the running operations. Each and every day you should produce with the same plants, with the same money or better with less money, more kilograms or more tons, better quality and higher yield with regard to the raw materials. This is one of the important aspects being a chemist in production. A very exciting part of the job is new business development. As a production manager, you are relatively early involved in the R&D activities to steer the development of a new product, of a new products, that they best fit into your existing plans. Because what companies hate is to spend money for capital investments then when they can avoid it. Therefore, in our company, in early development for new products, also the production manager is in the team to say, okay, this I can do in my plans, this I cannot do, or when you want me to do that, I need approximately this amount of investment. But this is also a very exciting activity, and this secures the future of the company, because you can improve and improve and improve existing products, but there will be one point in time when they vanish. There are always coming better projects, and older ones are dying and leaving the market. And you need really to feed, we call this our NBD pipeline, you need continuously to feed from research and development or a pilot plant, scale up until large scale production. You need to do this also. Next, please. What is also your responsibility as a chemist in production? You're responsible for maintenance. You need to organize the maintenance activities in your plant. Also, there is a task to spend as less as money as possible and achieve with that a high reliable plant, so on-stream factor that the plant is running. I said we're producing the whole year, and we expect from our plants that at least 98% of this time they're really on-stream producing, and only maximum 2% are allowed for maintenance stops, etc. And you are responsible for She is safety, health, environment. So you are responsible for the safety of your workers, for safe processes in your plants. You're also responsible for the health of your worker, for a healthy crew, that they can come in healthy to your facility and also at the evening leave without any injury, healthy, back home. And of course you're responsible for the environment. For example, we have to fulfill every year more than 10,000 legal obligations to comply with Austrian laws, what we need to do in our facilities. And the maintenance budget, for example, for one of the larger plants on our site is typically several million euros. So this is really each year, and this is really a huge amount of money what you need to manage and to organize to the best. Next one, please. Yeah, in a nutshell, again, one. Improve existing business, introduce new chemical products in your company, in your plants, and maintain to lowest possible cost your plants. These are more or less the main task of a production or operations manager in a chemical company. How it looks today. Next, please. In the meantime, yeah, I'm a little bit more far away from these operational activities. I have people in my group, production managers, reporting to me, doing all the things, and actually I'm as a managing director and site director of the DSM part of the site, and here you can see how it is spread all over the site. As I said before, actually there are 4 larger companies producing on this chemie park. This is, as I said, the DSM part of this company. My actual tasks is the improving of the site in total, the cost position of the site in total. So with energy consumption, utility prices, I have to negotiate with suppliers like, for example, Linz AG. I have to talk to the authority, to the government, to the politicians, to really also to secure a sustainable future for the site here in Linz. In essence, in short, I think this is what you can do as chemist. I always like to say I was a chemist, because you can imagine what I'm doing now has more or less nothing to do with the education of a chemist, but what you learn as a chemist, yeah? Thinking independently, have a high frustration tolerance, because chemicals reaction doesn't always work immediately. Sometimes they don't work at all. This helps you to also deal with the challenges of this type of job, being responsible for more than 1,000 people on a site. And yeah, what else you need? You have to learn on your way to that. You need to be a lifelong learner, but I think this is nothing new for you. This is in today's business environment, I think, asked in every job. Okay, so far my introduction to this. Are there questions?
Thank you. First of all, I would have a question. So, what fascinates you about your job?
At the beginning, it was really fascinating chemistry at chemistry, because once you do not need to learn a lot of things for chemistry, because the behavior of molecules is quite logic, and once you have understand it, yeah, you can really derive reaction mechanism only by thinking, and this comes really close to my own style of learning. I hate to learn things by heart. I want to develop it by thinking. This in first instance fascinated me in choosing chemistry. Yeah, and later on I must say I'm really attracted by chemical plants. I like it. I like this environment. I like to work there. I like to be in touch with people, with operators in a plant. I like to talk to them. I like to interact with all these guys, and yes, this is what fascinating me till today.
Okay, and did you know from the beginning that you want to have this career path become?
When I was thinking back, for me it was around the pre-diploma examination. So this was after 2 years of studying chemistry. I had the idea, okay, I will make my way as a production manager and what else coming on. So this was relative early in the course of my studies at university.
Where do you think people who are studying chemistry right now are probably going to end up? Like, what's the average chemist doing every day?
See, I think nowadays there is nothing like the average chemist. Of course, as I said, a vast majority of chemists entering still the chemical industry and starting in R&D. And there are only very few experts, yeah? Because then there are a lot of experts, so they don't not be any longer experts. I mean, everybody knowing this, so very few experts. I think marketing and sales, product management is typical career path for a chemist. General management, not so much, 10-15%, and more or less the same ratio as with marketing and sales you can find back in operation management, rough figures.
So I wanted to ask, how are tasks in a large company assigned to various different people? So how do you define this? So you have to do this and you have to do this.
Okay. What you nowadays typically have is you work no longer in strict hierarchies, yeah, but you have a matrix or organization along the value chain of a product from the first concept via purchasing the raw material, executing the process in a plant, packaging and supply to the customer, more or less, yeah. And along these work streams, you have work processes, predefined work processes, yeah. Of course, living documents, but when the world is changing, you have to adapt your work processes. And in these work processes, there's always predefined in a so-called RASCI diagram. So who is responsible, who is accountable, who is in control, who need to be informed, who need to be involved. So this is what we call RASCI. What role has to do what? So typically you organize it via roles and not via persons, because people changing their jobs nowadays relatively frequently. Yeah? So what you have as a stable baseline is work processes with the RASCI scheme and the roles in it, and the people actually in your company are on that role. They had then to execute this job.
And then I would have another question. What would you say is the most difficult part of your job?
getting up early in the morning. So I get up at 5:30, and I think this is the most difficult part of the job. Yeah.
And how do you cope with all the? Do you have pleasure in your job?
Of course. Of course. I think I mentioned it. We have cost pressure in our industry is tremendous, and you can only you have to deal with it. Yeah. But for some of our products, for example, we are able to sell them in China, even against local competition. So I think we must be doing something right. But pressure, of course, cost pressure, time pressure, and also not. I think what typically people have in mind, the environmental regulations are a heavy burden for chemical companies. I think this was true in the 70s, last century, so a long time ago. Huh? Nowadays, the chemical companies has reversed their scope. You can also make business with that. Yeah, it's at least in Europe, it's also a selling argument. When you have environmental friendly produced product in Europe, it's a selling argument. Less in the US, I must say, and in Asia, not at all for the time being. But this will come. So the environmental legislation, what we have in Europe, overall, is also in the meantime really appreciated by the chemical industry, because they also forced the industry in the past to develop what is an environmental friendly process. An environmental friendly process is a process what using less raw materials, producing less waste and less off-gas. What is it at the end? It's a cheaper process. You use less raw material, you use less energy, you burn less waste, you are more efficient. And I think this mindset change took part in the chemical industry, I would say around 20 years ago, from seeing environmental legislation as a burden to, I think it was transferred to a challenge, and nowadays we see it as an opportunity.
So there are just the standards nowadays.
Absolutely. And it will come in Asia too.
You mentioned before that most people are working in R&D, so research and development nowadays, who study chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're working for a big company or at university, how large is your, or how much possibilities do you have to actually investigate what you want to do? So what you want to investigate, so how large is your personal freedom basically as a chemist to do your research as you want?
When you go to university, for sure that is much higher. Yeah? In the chemical industry, you work result-oriented, and you get a task. Yeah, there is a project. You have to develop a project for customer X, and what we call the so-called research freedom. Yeah, what our chemists have in our plants are typically less than 10%, honestly spoken. Because we are in business for money and fun, but we are not in business for doing really research. This we think is really the place, university is the place to execute this kind of research. So our research must pay off. We need to see a payback on the money we invest in researchers, in the equipment, in lab technicians, etc.
So basically all the people working for big chemical companies are nothing more than better skilled workers, so to say, when they are told what they have to do.
Maybe this was a little bit misunderstanding. What I mean is when we told them what to do is there is a customer who need to have this product X. Yeah, please develop a process, an environmental process, and then you have freedom to operate. Yeah, but of course you will get a timeline, a project budget. This is typically developed between the company and the researcher, and indeed nowadays it's not only one person doing this. Nowadays you have a team with chemists, but also process technologists, also mechanical engineers to have a look on the effects. What might this process have for the plants? A purchaser is typically in, because you can easily develop two processes leading to the same results, doing it in two different solvents, for example. One solvent costs more or less nothing, and the other costs 10 euros a liter. And this is then the input of the purchaser, so don't use this solvent. So it's really a multidisciplinary team. What nowadays do this, what we typically call research and development, with a small r and a large D. So the development part, of course, we need to emphasize.
So basically, then you have a lot of small operating units in your big company.
Exactly. This is the project teams. This is and we call ourselves also a project-oriented company. This is typical hierarchies what you have in traditional companies vanishing nowadays more and more. You have project team putting them together. They have to fulfill a special task, and then they're diluted to other project teams. This is more or less how this works today. Not only, by the way, in the chemical industry. This you also find in automotive industries and in other companies.
So, this might be a little bit of a stupid question. What exactly are you producing for customers? What products? And so what are you developing?
No, it's not at all a stupid question. We as DSM, we making B2B, business to business. So we produce chemical intermediates for other chemical companies. So we are typically not known at the end market. You will not find in a supermarket nowhere in this world a product with DSM on it, but you will find a lot of projects where you can see, for example, Nestle or Hoffmann La Roche or Novartis or BASF, etc. Because we're producing more or less for all the large chemical and also pharmaceutical companies in the world. Here on the Linz side, as I said, we're producing these intermediates. We're producing also pharmaceuticals, intermediates, and also end products. But this we deliver to our customers, and they bring it to the market. And we're using for that our competences in improving processes. Sometimes customers came to us with an existing process, and they ask us, can you improve this process and produce this stuff cheaper for us than we can do it? And we have, we call this, it's also some kind of work processes. We call this operational excellence. And we have really a nice toolbox and nice work processes to tremendously improve chemical processes by cutting down cost, energy and raw material consumption by 50% and more. This is more or less also our business model, what we offering to the other chemical or pharmaceutical companies.
Okay. So, but how does marketing work if it's business to business? Because then you can't just put ads on TV. How do you market your product?
Exactly. We have two different kind of marketing. So one is we have this we call this one-to-one customer and supplier relationship. There we apply the key account manager. So we have one people in a company who is a key contact, for example, for Hoffmann La Roche. He's the face of our company to Hoffmann La Roche, and he is in contact with the people in Hoffmann La Roche. He knows a lot of this company due to his contact. He knows also what is going on in several departments of this company, and he actively pursues the people in Hoffmann La Roche. hey, I see an opportunity here where DSM can help you to improve here on cost or whatever. And vice versa, Hoffmann La Roche knows who this guy is on our side, and when they have a problem, they call this guy. This is key account management, what we call it. And then we have a typically marketing and sales force for multi-customer products, where we in first instance produce a product for a tank farm and then sell it to approximately more than 100 different customers. In these contexts, you establish nowadays via the internet with exhibitions, etc., and with track records. Yeah, the business is, I think I can say, the most people in a specific area of the chemical industry, yeah, are knowing each other quite well. So when we need product X, yeah, we know what company or companies to call and vice versa. This is how this works. Yeah, and right, we do not advertise at TV. It's too expensive.
Are there any other companies that specialize like in exactly the same thing that you're doing? So is there any competition between you and your company and other companies?
We have, for example, Lonza, a Swiss company, is a competitor to us. Saltigo is also a competitor to us. So there are a lot of companies also in the Western world competing with us. So we are not alone. Otherwise, it would be great. Yeah.
I have a question on R&D. I have this image of technician in a lab, and it's got all these colored liquids, and it's bubbling around and stuff. Is that how the lab actually looks for chemists these days?
More or less it is, yeah. With the exception, we try to contain the chemicals inside these glass tubes, so no bubbling outside of it. But indeed, typically we're starting our research in development in small scale glass apparatus, what we have on a desk of on a labor desk, so laboratory desk. Yes.
So another question: how do you differentiate yourself from competition? So you gotta do something better than your competition in order to actually get customers. So what are the differences there?
Yeah. I think let me start a little bit. What is a qualifier nowadays that you are quick, that you deliver the right quality, so that where we differentiate is, I think, our ability to really drive cost down for existing process. This I think I can really say I didn't see it so far a second time in this world, the ability to really cut costs in existing processes. And there's this our benefit and also benefit for our customer. But we, as I said, we also have own products, yeah, so we have also own IP, intellectual property, so on patents on several kind of processes, also on developing new routes for existing products, for example, yeah. And this we typically going then applying for a patent, and once you have it, yeah, this is covered for 10 years or how long ever, and this is then also what we can offer to our customers. Here we have a clever route, yeah, much more efficient what you are doing, but if you want to execute it, of course, we want to participate on your cost savings, because we have the patent in our hands.
When I did a Google search on your name,
Yeah.
the first thing I found was actually you being patent owner of at least one patent. What was that patent you?
This was back from my PhD study. It was the development of a fire-resistant polymer, but at the end it came out it is too expensive. So I was beaten by competition with it. But in first instance it looked very, very promising, but nowadays you can have it with cheaper raw materials. So at the end the raw materials I used were too expensive. During my PhD studies I had no purchaser beside me. So and nowadays, as I said, we try to avoid these mistakes, what chemists typically make. Because when you're a chemist, you love chemical molecules, you love the reactions, you like to see what happened there, and you care a shit what the raw materials are costing. No? So this is, you're only interested in results. And chemical industry, of course, this is different. You have to care for the results and for the costs, what you're doing.
So how does a typical day at work looks like for you? What do you do when you go to work?
As I said, I get up in the morning. When I enter my office, I start to checking emails. Then I talk with my production managers. How is the plant running? So checking all these figures, and then I have discussions with marketing and salespeople, with researchers in the company to bring it together. And then typically I have meetings, as I said, with external parties, talking to politicians. It's more or less organizing things to be done.
But basically, you're the one taking the last decision.
This is here at the Linz site. We have is organized in this case. There we have someone responsible for business. He's taking the business decisions, and I'm responsible for the site and the operations. And I'm taking the operational decisions and everything what belongs to the site. So this is a typical model what you found in Austria, Germany, and in Switzerland. This is a kaufmännischer Geschäftsführer and technischer Geschäftsführer, to say it in German.
And you cooperate.
And we cooperate, of course.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any more questions?
So basically when we go in the tram, we're reminded regularly that chemie is in and we should study chemistry. So what is it going to be like for us when we now really decide to study chemistry? I said chemistry before. But anyway, what are we, like, how is it going to look like for us? How is the job situation for chemists right now?
Actually, I would say the job situation is okay. It's okay. It's not that we are running out of chemists. So but it's also not easy to find good chemists. Yeah. Let me phrase it. So, if you want to have my opinion, how will it be when you enter school starting chemistry studies? I approximate this will be 5 years in the future. Yeah. I don't know what will be the situation in 5 years. No? But to be honest, I think the occupation possibilities for chemists are so broad that you, with really engagement afterwards, you will find a job anyhow. And if you like to study chemistry, do it. You need curiosity, stamina, and as I said, a high frustration tolerance. And then you are nearly a perfect chemist. So.
But then when there's actually no lack of chemists right now, as you said, obviously, because the job situation is not perfect. Why are they then making advertisement campaigns where they want people to study chemistry? Do you have any answer to that?
No, but I think but this is my personal opinion. I think what will happen also in the Western world and chemical industry worldwide is growing. Yeah, less in the US, majority in Asia, but also now in less in Europe, majority in Asia, but also now in the US. It's starting up, driven by low energy prices. What you have, yeah. So when you are not locally bounded to Austria or even Europe, when you are willing to going abroad, either to the west or to the east, for sure you will find a job as a chemist. And in these areas, I think in the future chemicals will be desperately needed.
I mean, but there is no explicit reason why Upper Austria all of a sudden wants to have chemists. Like recently, I've also seen that advertisement in cinema, so I was wondering this might cost a tremendous amount of money to advertise just to get people studying chemistry. So I was curious about that.
Yeah, now I think the job situation here in Linz will be quite stable. Yeah, it's the sites sometimes there are plants closed, but on the other hand, also new plants are erected. So this will be quite stable, I think. Same situation as for Europe.
I have another question. You talked about intermediates is what you produce. I have no idea what that is. So, say Nestle buys this, and so what do they do with your stuff exactly?
What do these companies do with us? Is flavors and fragrances, for example. What you can add to whatever Nutella. I think in Nutella we are not in, yeah. This is only an example. What the vast majority of products is are chemical intermediates, also for the chemical industry. For example, we're producing maleic anhydride here on the site, and this is an intermediate for resins. And out of resins is made a lot of stuff. For example, this thing here is this ceramics. But in Southern Europe, you find typical these kind of things made out of resins. And also car parts, plastic car parts are made out of this stuff. So this is also a huge market. Building and construction, automotive industry. This is where the end products went in.
That's in German Kunstharz?
Kunstharz, ja genau, Harz.
Okay, has anybody got any questions? Okay, then I would say thank you to Mr. Salzbrenner for presenting his company and sharing his experience about his job with us. And I hope you all liked it. Thank you again for being here.
Yeah.